So going in Philly, coming up through when did you decide to move to LA, or did you just stay there for a while doing comedy, kind of on the East Coast circuit, or you was like, I'm just did this a little
I
bit, I
moved,
need to go to LA?
I moved to New York first when I was, so I started comedy in '07, moved to New York in 2010, and then moved to LA in 2011.
Okay.
So it was like I started comedy. All right, cool. I realized, all right, I want to do something with it. I moved to New York first. I didn't really like New York too much. New York's not bad, but I didn't like living there. It was very depressing in the winter,
I
especially
hear
when you're
that a
broke.
lot.
It's very depressing in the If you're broke, it's very depressing in the winter. No, for real. I was like 23, yo. Like life was
Yeah.
like I had a cold studio apartment in a brownstone with no TV. I was sleeping on a futon. I had this raggedy old couch in there, and I would bring the same girl over, and that'd be that. I ain't have enough money to go on dates. I had money to fuck, but I ain't have enough money to go on dates.
Everybody got money. Fuck.
I mean, yeah, no, everybody don't. If you don't have your own space, you don't have money to fuck. If we be, no, no, no. If we're keeping it, we keeping it 100, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you are a man and you either don't have your own space or you don't have hotel money, you don't have money to fuck. Would you agree with this?
100%.
Unless you bringing her over your man's crib, which a lot of self-respected women ain't really down with that. Now, if you, I didn't date trash. I dated, I dated decent. I didn't date trash. I dated decent.
Yeah.
So
I
they
think
required at least.
Clint has a rule that I feel like should be adopted globally, which is if you broke, you shouldn't be dating. So I think that's true. I think it's true. If
I don't think
you
I don't
broke, you
think you
shouldn't
need
be
to.
dating.
You shouldn't be worried about that. You shouldn't be
Yeah, that's
fucking
the
if you
last,
broke.
and
You should be worried about.
I agree.
Yeah, you shouldn't be fucking. You should be worried about getting your shit right. But yeah, so long story short though, yes, I moved to New York. I moved to LA when I was about 20. So I've been out here for like 13 years now.
So how was that transition coming from Philly, East Coast to LA? Totally different vibe. You in Hollywood, weather.
It's easy because if you grew up in a big city, living in a big city is not. There's nothing really different about LA and Philly besides the weather and besides the people. And when I say the people, I don't even actually mean that in a bad way. I just think it's more laid back and a little bit more chill. It's not as aggressive and not as hard as Philly. But other than that, right, like it was a seamless transition because for me, I'm not that guy who's in one place and then I don't I can adapt very well, right? Like I'm not one of those guys who comes out to LA and said, "Man, it ain't like Philly, man." Blah 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 blah. Because I hate when niggas do that, right? I'm like, "Oh man, this shit ain't Detroit. Well, go the fuck back to Detroit then." You know what I'm saying? Or for real though, right? Like why'd you come in first? Oh man, it ain't like Houston out here. All right, well nigga, go to Houston. You know what I'm saying? So but yeah, if you grew up in a big city, it is not hard to adapt to another big city.
Yeah,
What do you
I mean,
think?
I was
Go ahead,
going
go
to
ahead.
just say, LA was also a very smooth transition for me, leaving St. Louis. So, and St. Louis is not a big city, but
No.
like I feel like it, like you said, like it's that hustle mentality that a lot of people from the crib have,
Mm-hmm.
and we just kind of just it happens so seamlessly and effortlessly. So
Wow, well, Clint, with that statement of saying like people like, oh man, just saying like the Detroit. Why do you have a psychology or thought process why people have that when they come into LA, like, oh, this ain't like this, or you think it's just their
I
kind of
think I think I don't think that's people that go to LA. I think that's anywhere, right? Like let me give you a stat. They say 67% of people do not move outside of a 20-mile radius of where they're from.
shit.
Right?
damn.
So think about that, right? Like, and I'm going to use my mother and my sister as an example, right? So my mom, where I grew up at, my sister lives 7 minutes from lived 7 minutes from my mother's house, right? And then the house my mother has now, my sister lives about 12 minutes, right? Like my sister knows. I'm not to say that she's not well traveled or anything like that. She's been places, but she only lived in a certain section, right? So I don't think that she would not survive, but I don't think she would have it wouldn't be an easy transition for her to go from Philly to another space because it's brand new. I think people don't have the wherewithal to adapt to different. Why do you think so many people stay where they are or stay in the same radius that they know, because at the end of the day, it's like, this is comfortable. The moment you got to make a move and be uncomfortable is uncomfortable, if that makes sense. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's a LA thing. I think it's a people thing, right? Like if they, motherfuckers move and they be like, wow, this ain't this ain't that, then this ain't for you. Moving wasn't for you in the first place. Like, because you can't compare two cities. I can't compare Philadelphia. Like, niggas be like, oh man, New York is better than Philly. We can't compare the two. What works in Philly doesn't work in New York, and what works in New York doesn't work in Philly. That's just what this is.
Man, that's dropped the jewel there, dropped a little jewel there. And so when you got out to LA, what was one of the hardest transitions comedy wise? You feel like, because people always, one of my closest homeboys is a comedian. He said it's different styles being in LA and being in New York, different styles. Like how the comedy is considered in New York. When he lived in New York, he could go do 40 shows in one night. It's different because you're showcasing in LA. It's a different kind of style.
I mean, again, this is where we talk about comfortability or being comfortable, being uncomfortable, right? Like, again, you're comparing the two, right? Yes, we do. Everybody knows that LA and New York are two totally different comedy styles. But and when I say styles, it's not even really the style. Funny is funny no matter where you go.
Yeah.
It's not the style. What it is just the appetite for stand-up comedy. You got to remember, number one, New York's a bigger city. Number two, New York has more people because it's more crowded. LA, there's way more to do than just going to a comedy club. In LA, you got to realize there's more free things to do in LA than there is to do in New York, because LA has warm weather all year around. You know what I'm saying? So like, even on our worst day when it's like 70 degrees outside, if you wanted to, you could go to the beach. You know what I'm saying? Like, New York doesn't really have that luxury to do that. So I say that to say, yeah, you can get up 10 times, 11 times in the night, because there's so many dive bars and all this other. And also I'm of the mindset, just because there is comedy doesn't mean it's good comedy. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, me transitioning to LA again was not hard, because I'm not expecting I'm not expecting what I got in New York to get in LA. I knew exactly what I came out to LA for. I didn't come out here really. I mean, I came out here for stand up, but for the most part, I came in here to get in the entertainment business. That means I came in here to get to write, act, create, blah 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 blah. Those opportunities weren't really afforded to me like that in New York. And I think that's the misconception. People move out here to be a better comedian. You're not going to get better here. This is where you get polished. Big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm go ahead.
Nigga, smart a little bit, man. Come on. You're gonna get a well detailed, thought out answer. Niggas is like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Well, let's talk about some of those projects, Clint. You have a short coming out this Thursday, and give us kind of like the background on that project, and also World Series of Spades. I know it's two polar opposite projects that you have, but kind of like dive into that. Like, what made you, like, also want to step behind the camera, because you also, produce this. So kind of like lead us there.
So I created, wrote, and produced both, right?
Right.
And it's fun. I play spades in real life. I play spades for fun. I don't play. I mean, no, I don't. I actually don't play spades for fun. I take spades very serious. That's why it's a competitive show. But I do that. I play spades, right? And why are we like for so long people try to make content that they think works, right? You see somebody else's formula and you're like, all right, I got to do that. But it's not organic. It's not what you do. This is not your lane, right? Like, prime example, I don't roast people. I'm not that great at it, right? And when I say I'm not that great at it, meaning if you put me in a room with a motherfuckers who roast, I'm just quiet. You know what I'm saying? But you have to know who you are and who you're not. You know what I'm saying? And for me, it's like, the Spades project was strictly because I am a Spades player, and I just found a way to make something that I do for fun or do for free and put it on camera. And then with this new project that I got coming out called Parents on Thursday, it was a real life situation that I just said, let me write it down. It's about, everybody has had that pact. With me and you and me and my friend, we ain't got kids. By the time we 30, let's just get together and have a kid. It never really works out. But in this situation, it actually does work out. And you see, you don't really get to see their whole story because it's only episode 1. But at the end of the day, you get to see like what that really entails, right? Like what about being a friend and a baby father in the same breath, right? Like it's not as easy as you think it is, right? I'm
Mhm.
blessed and fortunate enough to have a kid with my partner. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of seamless and it's kind of easy, right? Not easy, but it's easier because we're partners. But imagine if her and I were just co-parents. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. So
All
yeah.
right. Go ahead.
So the
Yeah.
number real quick, the short version of why I make these things is just I know the kind of content I like to make is stuff that I either am familiar with or things that I've done in real life or things that serve a purpose and make me happy. I'm not doing anything that I don't want to do or don't like to do.
Hey y'all, if you like what you see here on Everyone Needs an Aquarius, be sure to hit that button right there. It'll take you to more clips, and be sure to like, subscribe, and share our podcast. See you back next time.